Hi everyone, welcome to another video. For those who don't know, my name's Tom Buck. I'm the owner and managing director of the Calder Group, and we specialise in succession planning, working with clients, with business owners and with buy-to-let landlords in helping pass on the wealth you create during your lifetime to the next generation in a protected manner. We're still obviously going through, at the time of this recording, we're going through the Covid-19 lockdown. We're slowly being allowed to be adults and behave ourselves again and be seen in public, but things are happening slowly. And one of the things that we wanted to get across was the impact for buy-to-let landlords. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Joe Beattie from HDL Limited to the recording this morning, who's a specialist in general insurance and brokerage. Morning, Joe.
Morning, Tom.
How are you coping with all this fun and games?
Well, actually, it's been quite a busy time from an insurance perspective, because I think it's given lots of people the time to think about their current insurance, whether it's the cover that they've got or the price that they're paying. So I've had a lot of people reevaluating what they're doing and getting in touch to ask about what options they've got. So yeah, busy this end.
Excellent. Always nice to hear positive news when we're full with nothing but bad news. So I mean, you and I have known each other for a few years now. We'll leave it at that and move on rapidly.
Grey hair.
Yeah, I'm saying nothing at all. It's just a bit more under control than it was at the start of the month. Thank you very much to the wife and scissors. I think she enjoyed that. Was probably tempted to go a little bit further, but we'll move on rapidly from that as well. Right, buy-to-let landlords, you and I both deal with them from different angles. I suppose the question is, what has COVID-19, what extra issues has it given to buy-to-let landlords, and particularly when we think about things like problems with rent and actual occupancy? I mean, is there something you're finding with your landlord clients that keeps cropping up at the moment?
Well, yes, I guess a lot of properties were either left empty or at the end of a lease, and the tenants then had to stay where they are. There's been an awful lot of issue in bringing tenants in and getting tenants out, which has been virtually impossible over this period. I think that's a common in having quite a lot, and where the landlord then stands in regards to that property. Now, the important thing for me has been seeing landlords' properties where the proper legal insurance. So should the tenant either not be able to pay the rent and decide to leave, or decide to stay when they shouldn't be, that's where that landlord legal cover kicks in to enable the landlord to sort of fight that battle. Luckily, I haven't had to be involved in many battles. I'm sure many landlords out there have had varying problems with this, whether it's one scale or the other, that they've got a tenant in that's not paying rent, or they've got no tenant in. Now, luckily at the moment, a lot of insurers are understanding that if a property is unoccupied, there's nothing that the landlord can do about it at the moment. But that is a case of, again, keeping in touch with your insurer and letting them know. Most policies state that if your property is unoccupied for 30 days, your insurance is invalid after that. So the key at the moment is making sure that that legal cover is in place should you need it, and actually that you're in contact with your insurer to let them know what's going on, whether that's a tenant in place that you might be having issues with, or no tenant in place at all. The lucky ones are the landlords that took out rent guarantee policies, who are now probably laughing. A product that isn't available actually on the market. I'm waiting for that to come back on the market. Insurance pulled that, or insurers pulled that at the point of COVID-19, but those who were lucky enough to think that forward ahead and put that in place have been able to have that rent guarantee. So if the tenant's either moved out or can't pay rent, they've still got that steady income coming in. So it's been varied, really.
Okay, I mean, I assume, yeah, there's lots of landlords I'm aware of who are having that issue about people just saying, I'm not paying, and that's it. And I think, if I'm right, there's legislation that means that they can't even do an eviction order until beyond a certain date, which shows how rapidly things are changing. I can't remember when that was extended to. So at the moment, you say that the market has effectively pulled that product, it's no longer available?
It has completely pulled that product. So rent guarantee at the moment isn't possible to buy. And I guess insurers realised in the early stages that that was going to be a massive issue, particularly if you were between tenants and a tenant was about to move out and now has to stay. Where does the landlord then stand? The tenant's given notice but now isn't able to move, and again that's where your legal cover kicks in. And if you were lucky enough to put in rent guarantee beforehand, that also would kick in at that point.
Got you. So for those, again, like you say, who are thinking ahead, it's not a great time, but at least they've got the protection in place. Is there a case of you had to be talking to the insurer though to be able to claim, or can you now put a claim in if even if you haven't spoken to them and you're now starting to have problems?
It really depends on your policy, and that's the key, and that's where somebody like me comes in, because I read through people's policies obviously on a daily basis, and I've been doing a lot of consulting with both landlords and further insurance policies into what's covered and what they need to do. So if you haven't yet put in a claim and you think you need to, it's well worth going through your policy, and it's well worth going through the wording. Most insurers are being pretty lenient at the moment, but it is on an insurer to insurer basis. So have a look, go through the wording, contact them. I'd love to be able to say there was a blanket answer, but unfortunately it varies across the market, and that's where having a policy in place at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's like everything, it's that there are policy to policy, as we know in the life insurance, and my side of things, policy to policy it changes, company to company it changes, and again it depends on the honesty of the landlord as to what's going on and what's happened. How about those who haven't yet, who've got properties that are empty and haven't actually informed the insurer that actually people haven't moved in? Is it too late to do anything about that, or is it just a case of get straight on the phone?
Absolutely not. I would get straight on the phone. I would be letting your insurer know if it is that you've got a buy-to-let insurance policy or a landlord's insurance policy and you've had nobody in the property. Let them know, because if anything goes wrong, you've covered your own back then. Even if that's just an email, if you can find one on your policy to the insurer to say, you know, this is what happens. I think as open and as honest as you can be, the better.
Yeah, and again, keeping that email then of at least the automatic "we've received your email, we will be talking to you in 14 years" type response. At least having that and go, well, look, I sent it and here's the evidence, is better than saying I sent it and they go, well, we never received it.
Well, you'll know, Tom, a lot of what we do in the finance industry is making sure people have covered their backs. Have we turned every stone? Have we looked at every option? And I think that's the thing at the moment, is just to be as honest as you can. If you're having issues with even paying your mortgage, you know, be honest with the people you're involved with. Let them know what's going on. Don't bury your head in the sand.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you can't get the renter's guarantee, I take it then the insurance for an empty property is still available, still on the market, and is it still competitive out there?
Absolutely. And I think what you'd need to ask yourself at the moment, if you are a landlord and your property is currently empty, have a look at the insurance. Does it need to go on an unoccupied or empty property insurance, or can it stay where it is? And that really does depend on the insurer, the property, and where you're at the moment. Have you got a tenant coming in? That makes it a little bit different. Has the whole thing made you change your mind and you've decided you might do something a little bit different with your property? In which case then you need to be looking at the insurance again.
Okay, so again, it's that horrible thing with insurance policies. It's the small print, it's looking at the fine detail. And if, like me, on general insurance, you fall asleep by the time you get past paragraph 1, that's where someone like you, Joe, comes in handy.
I have an amazing skill now to be able to read them very, very quickly and tick off, yeah, it's got that, hasn't got that, you know, but go through it. If you need any help, obviously, I'm here. I'm happy to read through policies. I can do that very quickly.
Okay. And I must admit, I'm the same when it comes to life policies, wills and trusts. You get used to looking for words and skimming it and right, okay, I've spotted that now means this. So
it would take me hours to do that with a will, or in fact, to be honest, I think most people just trust the person that's writing it and hope that they've written it properly, so we don't have to read it.
Absolutely. To be fair, it's a bit like the insurance policies. You never know until you actually need to make a claim, and at least with the will, you only make the claim once.
You'd hope so.
In terms then of looking forward, because we're coming out of COVID-19 now, we might get a second spike. We don't know quite what's going to go forward. Are there sort of basics then that buy-to-let landlords should be thinking about in terms of, okay, if you haven't got renters, obviously, getting in touch with you and you can put them on a waiting list to, as it comes out, you can then say it's now out. This is who's providing it. Is there a list of things they ought to be thinking about going forward?
I think at the moment it is a good time if you've got a bit of time where you've been furloughed or at home to have a look at these types of things. We regularly look at, our internet bill and our electric bill and what are we paying and is it worth the money we're paying? Well, if you've got the time, have a look at your policy. To me, the key is that you have what they call rent interruption or business interruption. It won't cover you if the tenant decides not to pay rent, though. You have to be very, very clear on that. But it is quite an important aspect of your insurance because it will cover you if the tenant can't live in the property. And some landlords have luckily been able to claim on that if they haven't been able to rent their property. But again, I'd be looking through, and the key are things like legal expenses for a landlord's policy. If there is ever a dispute, that's where they kick in. And to be honest, in terms of claims, the biggest thing I deal with is in terms of dispute between the landlords and the tenants. So if you've got the time now, have a look at these details. Are they on there? Now, in terms of rent guarantee, I don't like being salesy. I don't like sending out general emails, but I think I'm going to have to, because actually at this point, it's quite important when it does come back on the market and landlords are able to get it, for me to just remind them, look, it's there. It's relatively inexpensive, depending on your rent, but even then, relatively inexpensive. And then if you want to add that to your policy and have that as an additional part of it, you can have that going forward. I'm just waiting. Obviously, similarly to you, everything's a little bit up in the air at the moment, so it's changing on a daily basis, and we're just working with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And does it matter then if you run your buy-to-lets within a limited company or as a sole trader or a partnership? I take it you can get the policy no matter what legal structure you're working within. Absolutely.
And again, going back onto what we were saying earlier, it's just being clear as to exactly what you are with the insurer, because the more honest you are, and actually if you've got a policy that's completely incorrect, you've got to remember that come to make a claim and that policy is invalid. So whether you're a sole trader or a limited company, as long as you've been very, very clear in the facts about who you are and what you are, you're absolutely fine.
Yeah, again, it comes down to, it's a bit like the car insurance. It's making sure you have told them of every knock and bump you've had, then making sure you have told them. I think you and I, when we were doing one of my cars previously, there was a tow bar fitted for a caravan that I believe made it a modification, which to me, I just couldn't quite get my head around that. So if I'd done the old simples thing, I would never have put that down as a modification. So again, it's having that conversation with someone like yourself to go, right, what actually do I need to think and what do I need to declare?
Exactly. And what's important, because effectively, if you then have to come to make a claim, the information that you've declared has to be correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether you're a limited company, whether you're a sole trader, yeah, it's making them aware of that, and whether it's your main income or not, because again, that makes a difference, I suppose, in terms of how the insurance people will view you as to whether you're using an agency to run everything and check everything, or whether you're doing it yourself.
Well, to be honest, Tom, a lot of the same rules apply whether you're using an agency or not. You've still got the same regulations within your insurance policy that state that you're checking on that property. It can depend. Usually it's every 3 months. I wouldn't like to quote exactly what it is, depending on your policy. So whether you're running your own properties yourself or you're doing it through an agent, you effectively take the same level of responsibility.
Okay, so whether you're using an agent, whether you're doing it yourself, you still got to be the one to contact the insurance company, say, we're having problems getting payment. You're the one who has to contact and say, actually, we've now got a property that's going to be empty for X period of time.
Absolutely.
And deal with that. Okay.
So just the agency are going to do that for you. Always make sure that you are making sure that if you're letting a property through an agency, are they doing all the things that need to be doing? Now they should be, but just check, are they?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's checking everything. We're talking to a lot of landlords at the moment, going, right, check that your wills are in place, check that they're written correctly. If you're using a limited company, are you using it fully? Because now is a perfect opportunity to talk about succession planning, and how actually are you structured. If we're all sat at home struggling to get out and about, I know we're back in the office, but on a much reduced time scale and much reduced staff. Yeah, it's a case of, like everything, it's looking at right now, actually, is the will in place? Have I dealt with the inheritance tax that's coming along? It's the same with the insurances, going, right, should we be doing this? Should we be doing that? And should we have this in place?
Yeah, exactly. And now is a really, really good time to be doing that. I think it's, in terms of landlords themselves, it is quite a scary time. There's a lot of talk of the market booming after this. There's a lot of talk to the complete opposite effect. So it's really important to know where you're planning to go and what you're planning to do with those properties.
Yeah, absolutely, because obviously there's the risk that the property prices could fall, because we don't know what's going to happen to the economy going forward, which, daft though it sounds, is actually a good time to start doing some trust planning and some inheritance tax planning, because you can actually get a bigger proportion of your estate dealt with than you can if prices continue to just rise. It's a bit like stock markets. We know the house prices are going to come back at some point if they fall, and again, we're presuming an awful lot here, but we assume they're going to fall. But they will come back, because let's face it, we've still got more people and more demand than housing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, for some landlords, there's going to be a fantastic opportunity out there to buy at a really low price and build their portfolio quite strongly.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people have, over this period, there's been a significant debate about, they've questioned where they currently live. Do they want to move? So actually, this could bring a lot of movement.
Absolutely. I think we were watching Countryfile last night, and we're recording this on a Monday, in case anyone's wondering. We watched it last night, and they were talking about there's a 50% increase in viewings of country properties now, because people have realised we can do work via computer, by video, we can link in. Admittedly, they've yet to learn the joys of country broadband, though, Joe.
It's all to come. The importance of broadband.
Absolutely. If you're used to watching Netflix quickly in the city, it's a whole different experience when you're out in the countryside. It really is. You get used to that buffer. It's your time to go and get another drink.
Absolutely. We just use it to our advantage, don't we, Tom?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Joe, thank you for your time this morning. I think it's clear. This is a time landlords ought to be checking what they're doing. If they need to be checking the suitability of their policies, they ought to be looking at the legal cover and the rent cover. And again, that longer term planning, taking this time to pause, reflect what they want and plan going forward and where they want assets to go in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key to the positive that's come out of COVID is that element of us all sitting down and taking a little bit of time to think about planning for the future. It's not just going to happen. It doesn't just happen. We can put things in place to make sure that we are appropriately covered and we are investing in the right place. Absolutely.
I think, like you say, we all know a couple of things. Taxes and death are the one thing that's guaranteed, and for landlords, you're guaranteed to have a tenant somewhere who gives you a little bit of a tough time and some new work.
Yeah, absolutely. So take the time, read through, reevaluate. If you need any advice, obviously we're always here.
Absolutely. Joe, thank you very much. If you're interested and want to have a chat with Joe or myself about some of the things we've talked about, our contact details will come up at the end of the video. We will do a couple more talking through some different areas, and as things develop, we'll carry on talking to Joe, and we'll put more information out to help you plan your way through not only COVID-19, but the next 10, 20, 30 years to come. Joe, thank you very, very much. We'll let you go back and enjoy the kids.
Very soon.
Talk soon, Joe. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.